Well, well, look at us, look at you. We are back again. Garden America back on the air on Biz Talk Radio and, of course, Facebook Live. Everything looks good so far. Tiger Palafox, I'm Brian Main. John Begnasco. Tiger making sure that we're up and running on Facebook Live. I'll make sure Biz Talk Radio is tuned into the show as well. And John is here with, well, John, your mere presence brings joy and happiness to everybody, not just because it's Christmas, but year-round. And for that, we thank you.
Well done, John. Good job. Keep it up.
Way to go, John. You see, this is exactly what I wanted. He's flustered.
I'm only flustered because I can't bring up the. I know
show?
I know there's a way to bring up the show.
Yeah, I've got a red pullover. Tiger's got kind of a teal green shirt going, and you have what's that? Gray? Would you say that's gray?
I can't get the.
I think it's a blue.
This is all I can get. I just hand my phone to Tiger.
That's okay. Tiger's going to fix it. Hey, we are back. Thank you to those that have tuned
Merry
in
Christmas.
right away.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, Murray. Happy Festivus. First of all, John was going to bring the poll in today, but is it in your car? Or did you forget it?
I brought in a check instead.
You did, didn't you?
Yeah. The polls are nice people, though.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
He's waiting out in the hallway for us, by the way.
Tiger, got your phone back on.
Thank you.
So
Wow.
how is everybody? I know you can't. I'm asking that.
Are you asking us or are you asking everybody out there listening to us?
I am
right now?
throwing it out there to everybody.
I brought you both Christmas presents, by the way.
You
so
did.
early.
Yeah.
And I know I was a little surprised, but
Well,
at how early you brought them.
Because here's the bad news. We're not here the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, we might as well break it to you right now instead of waiting to
Right.
the end of the show. We were going to be off next week, but it looks like 2 weeks.
Right.
And then we come back for the new year, tan, rested, and ready, and very refreshed.
Mainly because Tiger has commitments.
Yeah,
That's true. It's Tiger. You got
That's what
commitments.
happens when you work with someone who has a family.
If you're and Tiger's smart enough, and those men out there who have been married for a long time or past 40, when your wife requests something, you do it. You don't question. You don't say no. You don't just say sure, of course.
You know what, though? But it's great that I have the support from you guys because it was funny because I threw it out there to John first because we were texting about, I think, a phone call that we were having this week.
Right.
And he's like, hey, I can't remember the days that we're off. And I'm like, well, I had this one planned, but this one also. And he's like, oh, yeah, it's better that you go do that. You better go spend some time with your wife's family.
He
He's like,
texted
hey.
back, Janine wants to visit her mom.
Yeah, exactly.
I said, oh, you should probably go with her.
Exactly. And then Brian's comment was, well, tell her it'll be a nice trip.
Yeah, say we should be on the driveway and wave.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to the presents I brought because one was I had given you guys some rose seeds to see what you could do, and I think you
We
had
could not do anything.
varying degrees of success, but the eventual outcome was not much.
Yeah, right.
So I grew some seeds from that same batch, and I brought you and Tiger each a rose from that group of seedlings. So
Now, have you seen it bloom yet?
I know that they're both singles.
Okay.
But it was really, I haven't seen how they grow. And that one actually might be yours, Tiger. I'm not sure because I think one might have a tendency to be a climber.
Oh, okay.
But they're seedlings of Manhattan blue.
Okay.
So they'll probably be shrub roses or climbers. But they're unique. There's only one of each of those in the world. So if they turn out to be nice roses, you guys I'll help you register them and you can name them whatever you want.
Yay.
They have to have the same name.
The same name?
Aren't you giving us the same rose?
No, they're different.
No.
Oh, they are different. Okay,
They're
all right.
seedlings.
Well, they're both seedlings
Oh,
of
so
the
whatever
same
becomes-
rose, but they're
okay.
completely different.
Okay.
You know how that works, Brian?
Well, yeah, because you know the name of my rose? You know what it's going to be?
What?
Completely different.
That is a good name.
Completely different.
That is a...
That's not a bad name.
Yeah.
What if you named
Mine's going to be The Individual.
What if you named a rose after the title of a book?
What would the book be?
The name of the rose.
The book is
the name of the rose.
Yeah. Did you ever read that book?
No, I thought you were going someplace else with
That's
with this.
the name of it was a movie. It was a good movie. It was Sean Connery and
Sean Connery.
and who is the Christian Slater? Do you remember
a
that
movie with Christian Slater and Sean Connery, and it's called The Name of the Rose.
So one's Australian and one is Welsh, right? As far as their cultural backgrounds.
I believe you.
Okay. Thank you.
But anyway,
John.
it was kind of a mystery. I think a mystery about people being murders taking place in a monastery somewhere. It was kind of interesting.
So I guess a lot of rain falling in San Jose. Tanya's saying
Right
so
now?
much rain in capitals.
Really?
Planning on 27 for holiday party today, but just canceled. Concerned about family driving from far away. Wow.
Goodness.
Is that headed our way? Usually storms come south. Any word, John?
I have not seen that.
We had
on
rain.
forecast.
We had rain yesterday, right?
Yeah.
Right.
You guys had some too. It wasn't that much, I don't think.
No.
It spit.
It's so far it's a little too dry to my liking.
Yes,
Well,
it is.
It's very dry.
It is very dry.
We normally have a bit more rain than what we've had so far, and also it's been, I feel, warmer than it normally is. Like usually I feel there's a lot more chill.
It's cold in the morning, though.
It is.
From the get-go.
Oh, really cold.
Yeah.
At least out by my house.
How low did you get?
How low can you go?
Well, that's limbo. I'm talking limbo.
Oh. I think the coldest we've had so far is 39.
It's a good temp.
It's funny.
39's been popular.
I had to
this
drive
year.
out to Crest, east of El Cajon out there the other day.
Mm-hmm.
And, I leave San Diego, pass SESU, get through La Mesa area, get into El Cajon Valley. And I start seeing frost on all the roofs out there. And I'm like, it's crazy because I didn't see frost anywhere in San Diego, but I saw it on all the roofs out there in El Cajon. And it just shows you the temperature change.
Yeah,
and that's a
inland.
15-minute drive. But to have frost on a roof here and then no frost on a roof there.
John likes to call those microclimates.
Like that word. I lived my whole life in microclimates.
On his own property, too.
So those of you that have joined us, Biz Talk Radio, Facebook Live, thank you. We should probably talk about our guest just briefly, get the tease out there. Now, those that got the newsletter and read the newsletter, they know exactly who the guest is. Exactly.
Yeah,
But if you
because it's
didn't,
all in there, right?
everything's in there.
Photo, description.
I want to
all
know
of that
anybody on
fun-
Facebook Live right now. When was the last time, or when did you last subscribe to the newsletter?
Oh, yeah.
Well, you only have to do it once.
Do we have anybody listening, I should say, watching on Facebook Live that is not a subscriber to the newsletter?
I
I'd like to
subscribe
know that.
every week just to make sure.
I get it in both emails, my work email and my home email.
You know what I don't get is on Facebook. If you're watching, because you can watch our show on Facebook too, but
Right.
my wife watches Facebook on our TV all day long. She loves all the podcasts and things.
Right. And I watch YouTube on our TV at home.
Do you? I don't watch either one. But I don't understand. On YouTube they say hit the subscribe button.
Right.
What does that
It
mean?
just means you're subscribed to that channel, and whenever that channel puts out a new video, you will get a notification if you click the bell. You'll be on your computer, and all of a sudden, ding, ding, oh, my favorite YouTube channel just uploaded a video.
Really? Do you have to pay for that?
Yeah, it's free. You
So
don't
if
pay
you
for
click
subscription.
you don't have to put in your
nothing.
credit card number in order to
You just
subscribe.
you just click it. That's it.
Really?
That's
Yeah.
it.
Do we have that on our YouTube channel or no?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can
You
subscribe.
can subscribe.
Why
Well,
You
I
should
see where you're
subscribe
going
to
with
our
this.
new
It's okay,
our
Tiger.
YouTube
Take
channel.
two. You were off last week. I get it. I do this every day, and I have days like that.
Why don't people do that then?
Well, then you need to subscribe.
I'll
Yeah.
do
And
it.
also, go
I'll
to
try to figure it out.
And also, Daniel has put a link to our website, gardenamerica.com. So you have two things to do. Subscribe to YouTube, but also, as much as you can every day, just visit our website,
There you go.
gardenamerica.com. It helps us.
I have the
'Cause if you
quote of
don't
the
help
week,
us,
by the way.
If you don't help us, touch
You
and
know,
go.
I'll leave Tiger out of this, but you and I are getting to the age where we need help.
I don't need help. You're the one that can't remember anything.
I remember things.
But you remember the wrong things.
I think we need,
You know, I'm not saying everything I remember ever happened, but I remember everything.
Remember,
Anyway-
it's not a lie if you believe
If
it.
you believe it. Quote of the week, Brian.
Let's do the quote of the week, and we've got about a minute to go until the first break.
By one of my favorite authors, George MacDonald.
Oh, boy.
Yeah,
Georgie boy.
one of the MacDonald brothers.
Right.
He said, if the story were not true, Nothing else would be worth being true. Because it is true, everything is lovely precious.
Now, here's an example of getting the newsletter. I get it. That's good. It's a little deep, but I get it. But an example of subscribing to the newsletter, Carla, while you were reading that, great quote, John. I love George MacDonald. I have 2 of his books in my closet waiting to be opened on Christmas. So she knew the quote before you quoted it.
Yeah.
And
Really?
that's an example of
Well,
when
that's
you
because
get
she
the
read the newsletter.
Exactly.
So there you
She's
go.
ahead of the game.
So go to gardenamerica.com, subscribe to the newsletter. With that in mind, we're going to take a break and bring on Matt.
Matt is our guest this morning. We're going to be talking some cyclamen and other winter-style plants.
Cyclones and tornadoes. Or did I get that wrong?
Cyclamates.
Okay, cyclamates. Yeah, Fresca.
Cyclops.
Okay, we're going to take a break. Back after these messages on Biz Talk Radio. Our guest Matt is standing by. You stay with us. Okay, we are back. It is Garden America. It has been. It will be. It always will be. Garden America, we hope. Anyway, back after the break, I'm Brian Main, John Begnasker, Tiger Palafox. We got the business out of the way, the newsletter, the website, the quote of the week, and now Tiger, our guest Matt, is standing by.
Yeah, we have a new guest joining us this morning. Matt Mattus is the Senior Director of Horticulture for the American Horticultural Society. Say that 10 times fast.
Yeah, we're going to try that.
Exactly. And he's the author of 2 gardening books, Mastering the Art of Vegetable Gardening and Mastering the Art of Flower Gardening. And today we're going to be chatting a little bit about some of these winter flowers here, Matt. Welcome to the program.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, now, Matt, just for our listeners, where are you joining us from right now?
I am joining you from Worcester, Massachusetts, so just 30 miles west of Boston.
Okay.
18 degrees right now.
Now, for those
18
degrees. Now, I know, Matt, that the way you pronounce it and the way it's spelled sounds different. So go ahead and spell that for our listeners.
Worcester, like Worcestershire.
Hey.
Although here, New England, we have an accent, and Worcester is well known for its Worcester accent.
Oh, really?
Got the Worcester accent
You
going.
got the Worcester accent. I like it. It's 18 degrees right now. Is it snowy, rainy, sunny?
It is sunny right now. We're expecting snow Sunday night. We have about 3 inches on the ground.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you guys have been getting some weather for sure. So Matt, tell us a little bit about your history before we get into our topic this morning.
Sure. Well, my history is I think, kind of interesting. I certainly have been a gardener and intense horticulturist my whole life since, I was 5 years old. I live on the same property my grandparents owned at the turn of in like 1906, the same house. So we've always gardened here. My family, my grandparents did. So I worked, however, not in the horticulture trade. I worked at Hasbro Toy Company, basically like an elf, as a toy designer for 30 years.
Wow.
Did you design any toys that we might be familiar with?
Oh, yes. My Little Pony. I worked on Transformers. I certainly worked a lot on Furby.
What was that movie back in the day? Was it Big? Or there was one where somebody worked in like a toy factory.
Oh, Big.
Yeah, it was Big, right? Where he made toys. So is that kind of like what you did?
At Hasbro in New York City. So I started just about the year that came out.
Oh, that's so fun.
Interesting.
There was a movie with, I'm trying to think, Robin Williams called Toys.
Toys, and that's one where it was like a competing toy
That was
manufacturer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that one too. Yeah, that's crazy. So that's your history, is designing and creating toys, huh?
Yeah, that was. I mean, it's not even my passion, but I felt I really probably wouldn't make money working in the nursery trade, or it allowed me to have a nice glass greenhouse, but also collect the things I want to grow, but have a fun job.
And now you said you live on like a family property, like this property has been in your family for many generations.
Same house since 1906.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have
Yeah,
indoor
it's funny.
plumbing?
Californians always seem to like that fact. Here
Yeah.
in New England, we're probably the newest house on the street. because
No
they
way.
Go back to the 1600s.
Oh my goodness.
So 1906 was the same year the San Francisco earthquake, just as perspective.
Yeah, it's 4 years before the nursery was founded here in San Diego.
Wow. 1910, right?
Yeah, 1910.
Yeah.
Now,
Matt lives in
Yeah.
the new house down the street.
yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Now, Matt, I have to ask you, because it's been in multiple generations, this property. and you're in being from a kind of a gardening family, are there things that have been done on the property and you're like, ooh, I wish Grandpa wouldn't have planted that tree there, or like, what were they thinking when they were doing this?
Yeah, definitely. My dad had 7 brothers, so they all lived here, and one of them was a landscape designer in the 20s. So the bones of the garden are good. It's pretty formal. There's a goldfish pond that's great. There's long stone paths. It sounds fancy, but it's really just a typical residential neighborhood, 2 acres. But yeah, there are trees that have planted that are 100 feet tall. That is a lot of shade. But the funniest part, I guess, is that like in junior high, I planted trees that were 3 feet from the house that are now maybe have a 24-inch circumference trunk that I probably shouldn't have planted.
Oh yeah.
Hey, that's a rookie mistake we've all made at one time or another.
Yeah.
Too close to the house. Look at those roots and look at the sidewalk coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's more me making mistakes, I think.
Oh, okay. So you're the one creating the problems.
I remember that thinking in high school, God, this 5-gallon ginkgo is so cute.
Yeah.
I'm going to plant it at my parents' house.
It'll never get that big.
Yeah.
Right.
So Matt, a big reason why we had you join us on the program is because, this time of year, I mean, maybe not necessarily where you are, but some other parts of the country, they're dealing with their winter flowering plants. Here in Southern California, we have that season, a lot of portions of the West and portions of the South. One plant specifically that we're starting to see in the market a lot is Cyclamen. And, those grow in a wide variety of areas, and they're actually a lot hardier. I mean, people think of Cyclamen and they look very soft, succulent. They think that they're very sensitive, but they're pretty hardy plant. And you have some knowledge on Cyclamen. So we wanted to bring you on and kind of share with our listeners some things that they could be planting right now. So out where you live, what time of year do you guys grow Cyclamen?
Well, Cyclamen here are barely hardy, but so Cyclamen are interesting, and I collect them. There are 24 species, give or take 20, 24, mostly all from, let's say, the Mediterranean and Middle East. And they're about half of those are tender, meaning they don't want to freeze at all, so above 32 degrees. And then the other half, they basically like to be, let's say, in the 20s. Some maybe go down a little lower. So there are some that are hardy where I live that I could grow outside. Mm-hmm. And anywhere across the country, if it's zone 5, zone 6, there are probably 4 or 5 that you can grow, depending on how wet your winter is. But where you are, you're really in sort of Cyclamen land, or maybe San Francisco is up to Seattle. Uh-huh. But the more tender ones, you certainly can grow outdoors there. Certainly in San Diego, where it doesn't drop below 32, does it?
Not in San Diego. Maybe in some of the parts of the mountains, inland, but like not in San Diego.
Not on purpose.
Yeah, not on purpose.
Right. But of all those other species, right? They're all pretty much collector plants. So if you're a plant geek and you know about these, if you're in like the Rock Garden Society or you're an alpine plant fan, you have these. They're not something you're going to find at your regular garden center or a florist or even a supermarket. The ones that you find now at the holidays are all one species. So that's all Cyclamen persicum. Just think of Persia, right? It's a tender species. It's one that doesn't want to freeze. Maybe can handle a touch of frost, if the ground doesn't freeze. But that's what you're seeing planted outside your hotels in L.A. or even in Vegas if it's a cool winter. And they naturally bloom this time of year through these short day length days.
Okay. Hey, Matt, we are going to have to take a break right now. When we get back, we're going to continue chatting with Matt Mattus, and we're going to be talking about some of the winter flowering plants.
And those on Facebook Live, of course, questions or comments for Matt right there in the comments section. As we continue, the boys are back in town. Brian Main, John Begnasco, Tiger Palafox, thank you for joining us. And also those on Biz Talk Radio back after these messages. Speaking of Biz Talk Radio, stay with us. Well, believe it or not, and I think you should believe it, we have returned John, it was touch and go during that break. Biz Talk Radio,
Yeah.
Facebook Live, but we are back. Matt Mattus is our guest, and Tiger, we're just getting started.
Before we go on further, we have a point of clarification. You wanted to order Cyclamen off the internet, as I recall.
Right.
And it came in a little package. And I told you that you spelled it wrong. It's not cyclamates. It's cyclamen that you
Cyclamates.
wanted.
Oh, that's what they took out of Fresca back in the day because they said it
Yeah.
caused cancer in laboratory rats. So it is different.
You guys' knowledge on random things is phenomenal.
Hey, Matt, I saw, I'm trying to think, we were in the Slovenian Alps, and I saw cyclamen growing wild there. And they were the smaller varieties, so I'm not sure of the species. I bet you know what it was. And they were extremely fragrant. And I'm wondering, are some of the species more fragrant than the persicums?
It's so good you brought that up. There are a few species that are very fragrant, especially in that area. Purpurescens, there may be Pseudo-Ibericum, these super long names. But it's so interesting you brought that up because the persicum that you're finding now, breeders in Germany and Holland have been recently playing with the genetics and introducing some of that fragrance in some of the wild species. So I usually go to florists now and I'll smell my cyclamen and see, even out of a pack of the miniature ones, you see on a bench, 2 or 3 are going to smell like nutmeg or lily of the valley.
Yeah.
And I think in the future you'll start seeing more and more fragrant ones. They're building that in with the newest cultivars coming out. Yeah, they can be somewhat fragrant. I wouldn't say they're super, super interesting fragrances.
Now, Matt, also, can you give us a little bit of clarification on, what is a cyclamen? Because as I mentioned before, it's a little bit confusing in the sense of a lot of people see them and they think that maybe they're an annual because they only come out, during this time of year. But then they're kind of very fleshy, almost succulent-like. And then, like we talk about, like they can grow in alpine rock gardens and, in the Mediterranean. So is it an annual? Is it a perennial bulb? What is a cyclamen?
A cyclamen is botanically it's a perennial, and I agree it's really confusing, especially if you're just sort of like an average homeowner. You see a cyclamen at the store and you buy it. Think of them as a bulb plant. It's not technically a bulb; it's a tuber, right? And the tuber always sits halfway on the surface, like an amaryllis, halfway in, halfway out. Generally speaking, in the wild, sometimes they pull themselves down deeper into the ground, but it has that sort of water storage organ. It's that sort of severe-shaped object that goes dormant for half the year. So it's designed to be. They're growing in areas where there's usually half the year is wet and half the year is dry. So like all bulbs. They have a dormant period. So they're challenging to grow as home. And I always tell people to try and keep your sort of flora cyclamen as a toss-away gift plant. You certainly could try and keep it over, but even in my greenhouse, it's hard to keep the hybrid persicum over. The pure species is easier, but it's not unnormal. Don't think you did something wrong if after 3 months the leaves start to yellow.
Yeah,
that's natural. Also, especially where you are, they don't like heat.
Yeah.
So if it's too hot or too sunny, they can wilt, and once they wilt or dry out, they suffer. Their roots are really sensitive to that. So they like cool, damp conditions, not too wet, not too dry. It's that sort of Goldilocks.
Yeah. And as you kind of mentioned, like a lot of people will see these in a grocery store or florist and they buy them and they bring them home and they think they're almost houseplants. And that's like the kiss of death, right? Because like you say, they like it chilly and nobody keeps their house at 65 degrees, and they like it to be damp and nobody keeps their house humid,
right?
So it's like they bring them inside, they put them in the living room coffee table,
and then they wonder what happened.
A week later, the thing's croaking.
Exactly. Here in the north, or anywhere across the country in the north, if it's a cold winter, they do great on a cold windowsill. So a sunny cold windowsill in the winter. But yeah, they're not a long-lived plant. The florist ones. I mean, the species ones. They definitely will not live in a house. They want to be like in my cold greenhouse where it's 38 degrees all winter. They love that.
Oh, yeah.
But these florist ones here, I think they're probably easier to keep indoors in, let's say, New England or like Iowa North. If you have a cold window or a cold bedroom that's not heated, that would be ideal for them. But if you have a hot, dry apartment, it's more challenging. Think of it as a 3-weeker.
What time of year because as you mentioned, they do go dormant, which their dormant time is, into what, the spring and summer. When do they emerge again? What is their season cycle?
Yeah, they're pretty magical, actually. So I have a glass greenhouse. It's a cold greenhouse, and it's 38 to 40 degrees is what the thermostat is set at. So the cyclamen stay in there year-round. They stay year-round in pots. I really do nothing to them. And so all the species, even, the wild species of the ones that you would buy at a florist, get the same treatment. They're bone dry all summer, which is amazing. They're totally bone dry because they're under glass. And then as soon as here in the Northeast we get cool nights in August and September, and that's when the rains would start here. That's when the rains would start in the Middle East too, and that's when the rains would hit in the Mediterranean. So they like that Mediterranean cycle. Maybe even parts of California are that way. So they're totally dormant. It's just this bulb sitting on top of a pot or halfway in the soil until the flower buds start emerging in late August, September, depending on, the nights are getting longer, the temperature at night is getting colder. So those are all the signals, right, for the plant to start growing. And then most of them bloom in October, most species. There are only a couple, and persicum is one of them that blooms in the winter. And then most of them are grown for their foliage, if you're a collector, because the foliage is so beautiful.
That is
true.
true.
And then about May, when it starts to get warm, here in the north, but where they are in the wild, it's always good to look right where a plant grows in the wild and see what conditions it gets. So like from Syria, Turkey, Tunisia, where these all grow in the mountains, it becomes a hot, dry summer again. And that's when they just yellow up and dry, and they do nothing all summer.
And you brought up a good point that, we talk a lot about the cyclamen flower because it's striking. The colors are vibrant. It's kind of unique. Nowadays, they're coming out with all kinds of different style blooms, with different color combinations. But at the same time, that foliage on the plant itself, large or small, some variegation to it. There's a mix of greens, purples, whites,
silvers.
Yeah, all of it. That the plant itself, kind of like what people would do with like a hosta or something like that, right? Where they buy it for the foliage as well. It's not just the bloom.
Right. Collectors love the foliage. Some are arrow-shaped. The wild species, there's selections of the wild ones, and especially in England or in Germany and France, there are a lot of collectors. There's a Cyclamen Society. You can Google and you'll see these photos of people mostly post pictures of the foliage.
Mm-hmm.
Tiger, John in Newport Beach commented on our Facebook page that his neighbor in Newport Beach plants hundreds of red and white cyclamen at Christmas.
Just replants them every year?
Yep.
And then takes them out and then replants
I don't know if
ones?
he takes them out, but it just says that it makes a great dramatic Christmas display.
It's striking, And Matt, I mean, what about that? Because we do see these massive displays of cyclamen this time of year. Could people here in California leave them there, and then would they do that again year after year?
I don't think they would survive through. I mean, your weather's pretty unpredictable there. I'm not clear. I mean, what they would want is a dry, let's say a dry, semi-shady summer rest.
Uh-huh.
So I would imagine there are places in California where you could grow them, certainly in Northern California.
Okay.
Newport Beach would be right there on the coast, so you'd have the type
it's
of weather
cool.
that they like,
Yeah.
I think cooler coastal area. I think it would depend on how much. They don't want any rain or moisture in the summer. So if you had a freak rain for a couple of weeks, that might throw things off.
Sometimes we don't have any rain in the fall or winter.
But so
Exactly, right.
So Matt, we're going to take a break in a minute. But when we get back from break, I have this question because you mentioned that, and so basically, I think cyclamen would need to go into a bed that they could go completely dry through the summer months, so not even in bed for irrigation. But we'll get to that question or that answer after we get back from the break.
All right, do stay with us, obviously. We'd love you to hang around to the end of the show. Those on Biz Talk Radio, Facebook Live, more questions or comments. We've got a couple things going on, Tiger. I should say John. John is monitoring the questions there. Carla's got a question. We'll get back to all that and more after we take a break, as Tiger mentioned. Back with Matt. And again, we thank you for joining us. This is Garden America. Back after these messages, as I've mentioned, for our friends on Biz Talk Radio. Garden America returning from that break. Hope you had a good break. Those on Biz Talk Radio. Final segment of the first hour. News coming up for you, top of the hour. We come back at 6 minutes after. Hopefully you do carry the second part of the show. If you want to watch the entire show every week, go to our Facebook page, Garden America Radio Show, and there we are. You can comment and take part live each and every week, Tiger.
So before the break, I was asking Matt about how to grow cyclamen in a garden situation and maybe have them come back year after year. And, part of the criteria, Matt, is that area has to stay dry. So, in a bed that you were constantly irrigating or a bed that you had other plants in where you're watering them through the summer months, you couldn't have the cyclamen in there because they'd be staying wet, right? So are there companion plants for cyclamen, and are there plants that could grow during the summer months, or do you just have to leave this area barren?
There are companion plants for the cyclamen. If they're the species cyclamen, like the most common one is the ivy leaf one, which would be heterofolium. That's very common. It used to be sold at all the spring flower shows across the country, but they were wild collected tubers. But now you can purchase them at micro nurseries and whatnot. So many parts of the country can grow those, especially like Seattle and up to Vancouver and the East Coast, probably down to North Carolina, where they propagate and they spread. And you'll see pictures in England of them, underneath a tree, just spread because they're spread by seed. But they could handle maybe like a summer thunderstorm in those areas, but then it dries out again because you grow them basically like you would grow any ephemeral wildflower that's in a deciduous forest, where it's basically dry in the summer. There's a little moisture, but not like a soaking rain or staying soaking wet. I know there's some collectors in San Francisco that cover their beds maybe in the summer if they felt they were getting too wet.
Okay.
Persicum is a little different, though. The florist ones we most commonly see, I think that's a little more challenging. And the hybrid ones, they're really bred to be, a one-time deal.
Yeah. So it's you plant it, you enjoy it, and then if you leave it in there.
There's a lot of myths online, and we should probably warn people if you just Google like what cyclamen, and you're going to see, some blogs will say, look, you can take leaf cuttings, and I have no idea where that started, but you cannot take a leaf cutting from a cyclamen. I think they're confusing them with African violets.
Oh, yeah.
You can't divide the bulbs either. They're not really bulbs. They're tubers. They're all seed raised. All the ones that you find in the trade, like at any florist or garden center, they're all seed raised. Maybe a few are micropropagated, but no one's going to do that at home. But it's a long crop. It's like 9 months to get one to bloom. So that's why they're often pricey.
Yeah. I remember I was up at a plant production place here in Fallbrook, Plug Connection, and I remember seeing a cyclamen tray, and it's so cute. These little right. these little mini, because they, like you said, Matt, they produce them from seed, and this company produces. I don't know if you Plug Connection is a company that produces plants from seed, and then they ship them out once they've been germinated to growers and finish them off.
Plug growers, yeah. That's how they do it. That's how they save time. So, like there's a plug grower and a liner grower, and all those basically are different size pots. So by the time it gets to, your local garden center, it's probably passed through 3 or 4 growers to get to that point. But sometimes those are done in other countries. It's a big business, in South America or Africa, and they're sending them here as plugs.
Yeah,
but there are some exciting things with cyclamen. There's some amazing forms coming out. The super, super miniature ones, and there's probably 6 or 7 sizes you can get now. And these are also the florist ones again. And flower forms coming this year. This week I bought some. They have upright flowers. They look like petunias.
Oh yeah.
And there's heat tolerant ones now for your area.
But it's funny because when you go into like these plug companies, like half the time you can't ever tell what the plant is because it's just like this little miniature plant.
What is that?
But a cyclamen looks like a cyclamen, but it's just a little baby one, So it's kind of fun to see them. And like you said, like the leaves are amazing on them as well.
Tiger, what was the one you brought in here? Maybe it was a couple years ago, where it was a downward facing flower like most cyclamen, but the back of the petals had a particular pattern to it. Do you remember that?
I can't remember the name,
Yeah.
but Matt, it was petaled, and it almost like what we would call like a single blossom flower versus like the cyclamen is like a tulip. But it was just there's just so many unique ones out there nowadays that when you go into a nursery now, it's more than just the red and the white, right?
Totally. The one you're talking about just came out a few years ago from the Netherlands. And it almost is like another 5 petals on the back.
Yeah.
In a different color.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's contrasting. Yeah, those are fantastic.
Yeah, it's so much fun stuff. Matt, aside from cyclamen this time of year, there are other plants that do bloom in the wintertime. What are some of the things that also bloom this time of year that people can get excited about?
Well, primroses are a good one, and primrose is a huge family. In fact, cyclamen are botanically primroses. They're in Primulaceae.
Oh.
Which seems crazy sometimes to think about, but they are. But they grow under similar conditions. So certainly in the West Coast, you'll see a number of species, or like interspecific, like different species crossed together, of primroses that make great winter plants to plant out, that love cold weather, certainly hate the hot weather. And again, a short bloom period, but good for massing out or in containers or window boxes during, when you're getting your coolest temperatures. There's some campanula that you'll see in small pots sold now to put in with them.
And then, some other kind of tips and tricks.
Tips and tricks?
Tips and tricks. Since cyclamen and primrose are kind of very short season, do you recommend any kind of fertilization, or is it just kind of grow it out and then that's it?
Yeah, no need to fertilize. They're both weak feeders anyways. A cyclamen that I keep in the greenhouse, I repot every 5 years. So they're pretty much getting most of what they need from, let's say, rainwater. They don't need high fertilizer, and certainly primroses don't.
All right. Hey, Matt, we're going to take one more commercial break. We'll have you on for one more spot here after the break. We'll finish up chatting with Matt Mattus after this commercial. And, I wanted to put out there his blog, growingwithplants.com, but we'll get to more of that after the break.
Yep, top of the hour news coming up. If you are tuned in on Biz Talk Radio, hopefully your market carries our second hour. We come back at 6 minutes after. We will finish our final segment after the top of the hour with Matt Mattus. Thank you for joining us. Do stay with us. Biz Talk Radio, Facebook Live. This is Garden America. And just like that, we are back from the break. Thank you for sponsoring our many fine sponsors on Biz Talk Radio. Big thank you to Fertilome, our major sponsor, keeping us going in 2024 into 2025. So thank you, Fertilome. Brian Main, back with John Begnasker, Tiger Palafox. Matt Mattus is with us as we continue and wrap things up, Tiger.
Yeah, we're just wrapping up the conversation with Matt Mattus, the Senior Director of Horticulture for the American Horticultural Society. And before I
see, practice makes perfect.
Exactly. In pronunciation. Before the break, I had mentioned your blog, growingwithplants.com. And are you there, Matt?
Yeah, my blog, which I don't add much. I'm more on Instagram under Matt /Mattus. But
okay.
The blog is still, it's 15 years of posts on there, and I still put a few up every week. And growingwithplants.com.
And I highly recommend one of the spots to go, and it has nothing to do with plants on the blog, but you go to the About Matt section, and I love that he's got his professional profile and bio, and then if you keep scrolling down, he just has more of his, like, this is me and who I am profile and bio. and that was a lot of fun, kind of learning a little bit more about you, Matt, and kind of like what drives you to do what you do. So, that was kind of fun. But lots of good posts and lots of good information that you share. And you also have a few books, right?
Yeah, I do. I have two, Mastering the Art of Vegetable Gardening and Mastering the Art of Flower Gardening.
So if you're looking for some information or a good read, look for those books.
And Tiger, if you do get our newsletter, we have links to both his books and to his blog and his Instagram.
Perfect. Got to be a newsletter subscriber, folks.
Yeah, exactly.
No charge.
Free.
Free.
Matt, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Lots of great information. I learned so much more about Cyclamen. They still amaze me, and they're such fun plants to grow. So I hope everybody learned a little bit as well, and people get out there and start buying some Cyclamen. So have a good rest of the weekend, and stay warm out there, huh?
Yes, thank you. You guys too.
we will.
Perfect.
You take care, Matt.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it very
Bye.
much. And there he is, Matt Mattus, everybody, as we say.
I'm trying to think. I think it's, I could be wrong, but I think it's Edelweiss perennials.
Edelweiss.
Yeah, up in, I think they're in Washington or Oregon, one of the two. But they mail order Cyclamen, and they have a lot of the species that Matt was talking about. So if you Google Edelweiss perennials, I'm sure you'll find it.
And how do you spell Edelweiss, John, for those that...
Edel.
You're right. Yeah.
Weiss.
Big song in The Sound of Music, you know.
And Edel in German means noble, and Weiss means white, so it's the noble white flower.
Wonder why that was a big popular song.
Yeah, right?
Well, it's the national flower of Austria, right?
Yeah, and that's why it was used in the movie Sound of Music.
Right. Well, it's also a national song, if I'm not mistaken.
Sure. Well, 1939, when Hitler marched into Austria.
As long as we're doing international things, I want to give a shout out to our buddy Hastam.
Thank you, Hastam. He's one of our most dedicated listeners in Pakistan.
Yeah, we really appreciate you listening to us.
Hey, so if you're a Cyclamen collector, you keep them in pots. Like they don't go into the ground, it seems like, huh?
I have to tell you how tough Cyclamen are. Probably the same thing happens to a lot of people. You bring them home, you set them on the kitchen table, and a week later they're dead.
They die.
Yeah, it's it.
But instead of throwing them away, I put those in the ground and
feed them to gophers.
I haven't had gopher. By the way, now that you bring up gophers.
Okay, now we got to be careful because when you address this, we have to go back to your original thought.
Yeah.
Okay, which I've already forgotten. But there were 60. I got number 60 this week.
Nice.
Not in 1 week, but
Do like little bells go off? Ding, 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 ding.
Exactly. He's got a little ticker.
Yeah.
Well, there is the little yellow that shows on the trap. But, I think they're finally under control.
Good to hear.
I mean, to the point where I can keep up with them one at a time.
Yeah.
Now, you're never going to really control. You can only hope to contain, right?
Kill is the word I would use.
Kill. You mean unalive them?
Yes.
So
you said we can't use that word on YouTube. So yes, they're
unalive
no
them.
longer with us.
Okay.
But you had said, so you plant these Cyclamen in your garden?
Well, what I found out is around, my son lives in a ADU on the property.
Yep.
And around the house is a raised bed. And on the north side of the house, there are camellias, which don't mind being dry in the summer either. And we just throw the Cyclamen in there. And they come back every year. But the funny part about it, compared to or relating to the conversation we just had, is that bed is under irrigation.
Oh.
And the water comes on
all the time.
I would say every day.
Wow.
Unless we turn it off. And
they do okay?
They come up every year. And I think the key is the drainage.
I was going to say it's probably...
Yeah, I don't think the heat is a problem because they've gone through temperatures up to 109. And as long as they're dormant but with good drainage, I think they're okay.
Yeah, so the key is preventing root rot in any Cyclamen through the summer months.
I think drainage is definitely the key. And again, those are Cyclamen persicum, not, some of the species might be more tender.
Yeah.
But I remember when we were with Bruce and Sharon in the Slovenian Alps and we found the Cyclamen. First of all, it's a shock to see Cyclamen growing wild.
I was just going to say that. It'd be like running into a lion.
Yeah. And they were the miniature ones, but then like there were some that were growing out of a rock wall, a ledge in the shade too. And, so you didn't have to get down on your hands and knees, but you could actually go up and smell them. And the intense fragrance was unbelievable.
And were they individual plants in the natural environment, or was it like, did you have like fields of them? Like,
Well,
how do
it's
they
hard to
grow?
Or are they just sparse
They're so
randomly?
small; it would hard to be in a field.
Yeah.
I think they were.
Just little groupings, or
Well, since they
small?
came up from seed, like Matt was describing, I think that they took hold in places where it was difficult for other plants, especially grasses, to take hold. You know, and in being in more shade, you're not going to have as much competition from other plants.
Yeah. Okay.
I'd like to go back there someday.
We'd like you to go back there someday.
Change the subject a little bit. I told you guys I wanted to hit this topic, and since we mentioned seeds, that I had mentioned that there's a mass phenomenon happening in the Northeast right now, and it's the red oak tree is having what's known a mass MAST year, where they get like 85% of acorn population production.
Well, the
happening.
squirrels must love that.
And they do. They say it creates huge influx of rodents, squirrels, all the things that eat acorns.
I think there's a lot of red oaks in Texas.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, when
yeah.
we were
I
there,
wonder if
we
they're doing
saw
the same thing.
I don't know.
But it's a kind of just crazy thing that when you walk through the forest, they're just all over the
Everywhere.
place, and they're just falling down, hitting people. I mean,
Well, it's better than getting hit in the head with a coconut,
yeah, right.
right? Circa Keith Richards, 2011. Well, he fell out of a coconut tree. That was different. You know about that, right?
I remember that. Yeah.
But yeah, people. I think there's a statistic every year how many people die from coconuts.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah,
That's
that's not a good way to go.
Do you think it's
No,
more
that would
than-
not be a good way
What
to go.
about bunyas?
Oh yeah.
They played with Duran Duran back in the 80s, didn't they?
Bunya?
Yeah, I think so.
No, that was the character on the Wiggles.
Hey, Matt was part of creating My Little Pony.
Oh
In
yeah,
Transformers.
How about
I
that?
started
That is
mentioning that.
neat.
He's like, yeah, just something I kind of did. I needed the money.
Yeah,
Never thought I could make any money.
I love how he said that's not his passion. I'm like, man.
The one that impressed me that he worked on was the Furby. Do you remember Furbies?
Furbies. That was an 80s thing, wasn't it? I
Yeah.
think. I don't remember.
No,
but
90s.
was it 90s?
Yeah, I think it was 90s
Yeah.
because we had one for our daughter.
Yeah.
So
Furby.
maybe early 90s.
Little Furbies.
Little
That's like some guy
creepy-
saying,
little creepy gremlin
I,
thing.
I wanted to work in a nursery, but I couldn't make any money, so I thought I'd cure cancer. So
Yeah,
I cured
exactly.
cancer, then I got back into the business of,
So I could afford.
I could afford.
Yeah, so I could afford my gardening habit.
We're going to take a break for those that are tuned in. Who else would we be taking a break for, right? For those tuned in, we're going to take a break for you and us. Questions, comments, Facebook Live is wide open right now. Whatever's on your mind, give it to us as we continue. A big thanks to Fertilome, Brian Main, John Begnasco, Tiger Palafox. Back after these messages, and enjoy this break. Courtesy coming to you from Garden America. Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Garden America is back. We have 1, 2, 3 more segments during this holiday season. So very Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate, because we're going to be gone for the next 2 weeks, back right after New Year's, or the new year, 2025. So whatever you can get out of this show, give it your best. We have a text question, as I understand, right, Tiger?
Yeah, from our friend Susan. How to store sterile seed starter mix once opened and is no longer sterile. So first thing we'll address is, I think we've hit this before, is seed starting mix is sterile compared, and people, go, what? That's crazy. It's dirt. How is that sterile? And it's because, potting soils and compost and things, they have, funguses in there, which are good. And they have other seed material in there that might be,
I think it's fungi.
fungi and fungus.
That was when we met Tiger. Somebody said he's a real fun guy. You'll like him.
But so potting soil is not sterile, and it's not necessarily designed to be sterile and shouldn't be sterile. But when you're starting seeds, you want that nice sterile environment because you don't want your seeds to develop any kind of diseases or anything.
Once
right?
they're contaminated, that's it.
Exactly. Yeah. So her question is,
So sterile seed starting soils just been heat treated, right?
yeah, so all of the fungi and bacterias have
Right.
been killed.
Right.
But it's still soil in the sense of what is in seed starting mix. Probably some pumice, some
Peat
fir
moss,
bark, peat moss. Yeah.
Now, was somebody going to ask the question, what is the optimum heat? Like, at what point does it actually kill?
Oh, you can sterilize your own soil
Yeah, I was
by
gonna say.
putting it in the oven.
Uh-huh.
But I'm not going to give any recommendations for that.
But Susan's question is, once that bag's been open, you haven't used it all, how do you keep it sterile? So how do you keep it to be sterile?
You just roll the top of the bag back up.
That's one way.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
that's
it
true.
really is that simple.
No, it really, yeah.
It's not sterile in the sense of it has to be sterile the way that doctors would prepare you for an operation.
Right.
You have to vacuum pack it again and
Right.
all of that. I would say you want to keep it out of the elements, though, too.
Right.
Meaning like
Right.
stored in a shed or your garage. Don't
Right.
just leave it on your back patio.
But it really is that simple. Just rolling up the top of the bag and set something on it so it doesn't unroll.
Yeah, or like paper clip it.
Yeah.
If you wanted to get real fancy, you
can
get
use one of those potato chip clips.
Yeah, see? But if you want to get real fancy, you can use a large Ziploc baggie and keep it that way. But I think John, is right that you just roll the bag up nice and tight like you would have a loaf of bread, clip it so it stays shut, and then keep it inside. So, like I said, your garden shed, your garage, somewhere like that. You don't want to keep it outside just because you run the risk of it, getting filled with water or a bag cracking, and then, if
Keep it away from the elements.
Yes.
Well, you're going to have more bacteria or fungi growing in the soil if there's moist conditions.
Uh-huh.
So if you did allow it to become exposed to rain, you're going to be adding, more moisture and be easier to become unsterile.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I also can say, Susan, that they sell those bags. I mean, anybody that's buying a 1.5 cubic foot bag of seed starting mix has got some work cut out for them. But they sell them in small bags,
right.
and you should be able to just use it all up in one or two plantings that you shouldn't have to worry about it.
John, do you still get seed catalogs?
No.
You don't get Baker Creek still? Or what
I
are they?
don't think
Is it?
so.
It's not called Baker. The catalog is it Baker Creek? The catalog? I think it's something else.
Baker Creek is the catalog and the name of the seed company, but the website is rareseeds.com.
That's Rare Seeds.
Yeah, you miss those centerfolds, don't you, in the seed catalog?
Well, I don't really do much with seed anymore.
Oh, this is centerfold.
So
But you plant seeds of ideas with us.
ideas is the only thing that I still seed. Yeah. But I plant rose seeds occasionally.
And you think
And I
Tiger's
don't.
a good seed, right?
What's that?
Tiger's a good seed, right? I mean,
It's a very good seed. It's one of my favorite people.
One of your
It's on
favorite
that
seeds.
list.
Yeah.
So the list gets shorter every year, not because I take people off, but because they're no longer with us, as you would say.
right. And some people do it to themselves as well.
Yeah, that's true. So let's see here. We got,
We got a few comments, I think, here.
I think I might have missed some of them.
Let's go back. Let's backtrack, shall we?
Well, John was just in Newport Beach was just commenting about the seed starting soil. And he said rolling the top's actually pretty effective. He says in medical product design, they sometimes design to create circuitous paths so that it's more difficult for bacteria to find their way into the device. Same principle applies when you roll the top of the bag and secure it. How about that?
Yeah, right.
Tiger's reviewing the show, replaying the show.
Yeah.
The delay is, we got quite a delay here from the time the camera goes on any one of us.
You know how
It's about 6 to 8 seconds before it actually shows up.
You know how long it took me to learn to turn that off before the show, and I always thought it bothered you guys, but I see that Tiger misses it.
So remember over here on my computer, it used to be the
Yeah.
same thing. I just decided not to use the computer. Instead of worrying about
that's pretty
remembering,
good.
I just shut it off.
So we got, I don't think we talked about the Christmas presents I got you guys, but I don't think
Oh.
we talked about the calla lily.
No, we did not.
Which
And-
I think people, because they can see it during one of the camera shots, would be curious to know about that.
Well, the curious thing about it is white callas, which I think is Calla aethiopica, Tiger, I'm not sure, is the most common calla. But this particular one
Don't touch my leaves like that. You never ruffle my leaves there, buddy.
I still haven't figured it out, but this one, after it's done flowering, the leaves are striped.
I can't wait. I know where this is going.
It's not just variegated; it's actually striped. Every vein is brilliant, and it's just amazing. And I've always been fascinated, and I've never seen the plant for sale. Maybe if you do a Google search, you could find one. But this one originally came from a test plant that was at plant trials. Probably, I'm trying to think, maybe 12 years ago.
And it's a good sized calla too. Meaning when I've seen it at your house, right? And it gets like a good sized leaf. This isn't one of these small little because they make a lot of these very ornamental ones,
right?
But they're all small plants.
Well, here's the good news: I can keep it in that pot for up to a year before doing anything.
Oh, at least maybe even longer.
Maybe longer. But that's nice. That's going to go along the sidewalk. That's going to be something that when somebody walks down, they say, "Hey, what is that?" As a matter of fact, let's give John some credit here because every year, most years, at least with you and I, Tiger, he'll give us plants that nobody else really has.
Oh yeah,
or they're rare, like the Australian.
These roses. No one else has those.
The Australian bottle tree. Nobody within 100 miles probably of me has one of those, or maybe 10 miles, or it could be a mile. But suffice to say that it's something rare. And on that note, we're going to take a break.
There's a lot of them in the ground at the San Diego Botanic Garden.
Well, I'll see. So maybe.
But people probably don't grow them on their patio.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. We're going to take a break. 2 more segments coming up here on Garden America. We're having a good time. Biz Talk Radio, Facebook Live. Those on Facebook Live, still plenty of time for questions, comments after a break, and more from our friends, our sponsors on Biz Talk Radio. Okay, we have returned. This is the longer segment of the next 2 that are coming up here on Facebook Live and Biz Talk Radio. Hopefully you're enjoying things. A lot of good comments this morning. But, here we go. Tiger, are you through fondling my
I was trying to read.
plant?
There's writing on the can, and it's...
Oh, it tells you what it is, right?
No.
I tried to wipe it off, but I couldn't get it all off.
Pasadena Tournament. I don't know.
Climbing.
Was that
climber? It was a climbing variety of the Rose Pasadena Tournament.
Ah, okay.
Which I killed, and so I
That-
repurposed the pot.
No,
Yeah.
you allowed it to die. That's how we like to phrase that.
No, I pretty much contributed to its
Did you kill it?
demise.
Okay.
Yeah. Lenore Tiger says that she's got seeds for cyclamen, so when should she plant them?
Oh. That would be...
I don't know why you couldn't plant them now, but I'm trying to think of the natural order of things.
Well,
Cyclamen would be blooming now.
Right.
They would go to seed, and...
they would go to seed almost now.
But see, my first thought was like you, because it's cold right now. Is that what you were thinking? Because it's chilly?
Well, I'm thinking that after they're done flowering, they go to seed and you spread the seed, so that would be like early spring.
Right.
But it depends on the type of cyclamen. You know, the ones you buy in the supermarket,
Right.
or nurse or garden centers, if you've had those in large pots or you put them in the ground, you'll see that flower bud bends over and actually pokes its way into the ground, and will start a new plant.
It will bury itself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like that's what it does, right? It's like that natural order is
Right.
it actually puts the seed into the ground for itself.
Yeah.
And to get to your question, John, you kind of hit it where it's like the natural order of things would be to put seeds in the ground now or even in the next, couple months, because that would be the natural time. But then it also sits there through the whole summer.
Probably, right.
And doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
And then starts to grow again, Lenore, right around September, October. So is it better to do that natural cycle, or is it better just to wait till September, October, and then when the seed would actually germinate and start growing again?
Yeah, it's not going to germinate. And Lenore lives in canyon country. So, it gets pretty hot in the summer, right?
Yeah.
And that's not the time of year to be growing cyclamen.
Germinating.
So if you wanted to start them now, I would say go ahead and start them. For her, the earlier the better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Veronica commented on the calla lily. She said it's cool but not sold. I don't know if they're... Again, this was...
Let me see if I can find a picture of this one, because she's right where but once you see the foliage,
Yeah. And I know this was a test variety that never did get introduced, but I'm thinking there could be other variegated leaves out there, right?
yeah.
Tiger, you gave me one, I want to say a couple of years ago. I believe it was you, in a small pot, which I kept for 6 months and then transplanted it into a much bigger pot, and it really took off. Yeah, I'll take a picture and send it to you, John. It's massive, humongous. It's giant.
Lenore mentions that she's got one that's flowering like crazy now too, Brian. You and her ought to share pictures.
We should share, yeah, exactly. Share our stories together.
There's two really striking photos that I found. Let me show you, John. Which one should I share? So there's that one.
Now that's what it looks like.
That's
Let's
what it
see,
looks
let's
like,
see,
right?
Tiger, let's
But
see.
I'll show you. Hold
Is
on one
that
second.
available?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, hold on one second. Let me go
All right.
back. Because and then this one, I don't think it looks like this one though, but maybe.
Oh, it does look like that.
Does
one.
it really?
Yeah.
You've seen it look like that?
Yeah.
This
one
is
here?
amazing.
Oh, I love, and the striping you talked about.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Beautiful.
let me put the camera on me. I'm going to do this right here on Facebook Live
Yeah,
so
that's
people
easier.
can see, and then I'll post a picture of it. So
And let people know where to get that.
this is what it eventually will do: is that striping leaf, kind of variegation with the regular bloom, very dramatic. Let's see. I found this on Plant Delight Nursery.
Oh, yeah.
Plant Delight Nursery.
That's Tony Avant, right? We've
Yeah,
had him
not
on
in
the
stock
show.
at the moment. Do you know how to say? Do you know how to say the second part of the name?
African gold.
No.
Yeah, that's the one. The species I mentioned, Ethiopica.
Ethiopica.
Yeah.
Ethiopica. So it's the African gold calla lily is what he listed as, and it's one of Tony's favorite.
Does it mention a price?
It says, yeah, it did. It is. I mean, it did when I was looking at the other part. Now it's not. Now things are popping up. Goodness
yeah.
gracious, this website.
I know. You go Google now, and it takes you
$36.
everywhere.
I can't tell what size.
Everywhere
it
you
is.
don't want to be.
$36. His plants, I think, are usually 4-inch pots.
Are they?
Yeah. So 36.
I can't wait for this to start to
3.5
really
inch
come to
pot.
fruition.
3.5, so 4-inch pot.
Yeah.
I'm getting more excited as the show goes on looking at that, because the more information we find out about it, the more detail, the more background.
I still, though, I just haven't had them long enough to figure out when the variegation comes.
Well, we'll
and-
figure. I'll let you know.
And I have like an amazing place for this plant. And then the other beauty behind these is that if, let's say 5 years from now, 10 years from now, I need to do something in that area, dig something up, whatever, they transplant.
Oh,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like so
Yeah.
easily.
right.
So, some plants you really have to think about, oh man, I'm going to leave this in there for 10 years, 15 years. I can't touch this. Like I got a commitment here and I cannot move this plant later on. Where with this one, if 6 months from now it's like, oh, I want to move it over to this side of my yard, it transplants so easy.
You mean it's not like a bougainvillea?
No.
You can usually divide them, too.
Yeah.
If you want more.
Yeah. So yeah, they're a lot of fun. I have the that's the tough thing because roses are the same way too, because you can move around those. You just wait till the wintertime, you dig it up, pop it into another area, and you never
That's
lost
because
your-
roses have no idea where they are. to begin
they're just ditsos.
We got some comments on the picture that you posted.
Yeah.
Oh
I
yeah, I
think
need
it
to
went over
post the
quite
picture
well.
too. Let
Yes,
me see
we
if I
did.
can post that.
Yeah, let's see. Starting with Tanya up in San Jose says, oh, no, let's start with Veronica in Spring Valley. Veronica says, oh, wow, with one exclamation point.
Only one?
Then Tanya follows up with, wow, with 5 exclamation points. Masilla says, gorgeous, with an exclamation point. And John in Newport Beach puts double wow.
Now, are they talking about this or the pictures that we sent them?
I think they're talking about the show, Brian.
And then there's the link that we just posted. Was that you, Tiger?
Yes, that was
okay,
me.
Tiger just posted on the comments section of our Facebook page.
Right. And now that you guys know what it is, you can do Google Google searches and see if it's available from someone that actually has it in stock.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is nice.
Carla says that Linda in Huntington Beach had a gorgeous photo of Yuletide camellia in the newsletter. And
Yes.
she wants to meet you. So we could maybe set up a little service here. You know, we are always looking for different things to add to our website, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Have we considered a dating service?
And no, but that could be part of the little program we're talking
Yeah,
about,
yeah,
right?
why not?
You put
Exclusive
people
membership.
with gardening interests together?
Sure. Bringing two seedlings together.
Propagation. Linda, callas don't overwinter here for me. Keep in pots with a question mark.
Yeah, she can keep them in pots, but keep them dry in the winter.
Yeah.
And put them in, in an unheated garage or just some area where it's not going to freeze, right?
Right.
Dry like a plumeria in the winter, right?
Kind of.
Yeah.
Keep them dry.
Yeah, kind of like that. Yeah, you're right. But because I mean, there's such a fleshy tropical plant that any kind of cold, wet weather is going to kill it right away. So you got to be real careful with that.
I'm trying to think of the variety. It might be Hercules.
Oh yeah,
Do you know that one?
I know that one, but what are
It's
you saying?
It's a calla lily, an Ethiopica variety, so similar to this, except the plant is 6 foot tall
Oh yeah.
and has humongous flowers, like that big. So it's at like about 10 inches.
Like a volleyball.
Yeah,
Size of a dinner plate?
not that big.
Okay.
Maybe a dessert plate.
Salad. Hey, we got a break coming up here, which means one more segment.
And that's the last?
That's it. We got to get our business done.
Oh my goodness.
So I know.
Got a lot to fit into this last segment.
I'm all shook up. All right. So we'll take a break. We have one more segment coming up here. Facebook Live, Biz Talk Radio with your garden buddies, Brian Main, John Bagnasco, Tiger Palafox. We thank you for supporting us as we continue. Coming back after the break, as I mentioned, with one more segment here on Garden America. Okay, we made it to the end of the show, at least to the final segment here on Garden America, as we continue to have a good time. Remember, we're off for the next couple of weeks. Back first of the year will be our first show. But we have many replays.
2025.
Exactly. Now, you can go to YouTube. Go to our YouTube page, Garden America Radio Show. Subscribe while you're there. Then you can watch all the shows from the entire year. Spotify, Pandora, Alexa, many ways to hear the show. Google will play the show as well. So you can catch up or relive some memorable experiences from 2024 with Garden America, John.
It took me a while to get used to having the shows archived, because you said it was a service, and I always thought of it as evidence.
I think you're right. I think you're right on both counts. So there you go. Let's see.
Got a question for Brian.
Where's that?
An off the wall question.
Oh, yes, I have.
Have you ever driven a Zamboni?
That's Kevin. Yes, Kevin, I have. Years ago.
What was it like?
It was a little interesting because I had no idea what I was doing at the time, and there's a specific way to drive those.
Were you supposed to get on it? Were you allowed to get on it?
Boy, you know me very well, don't you?
Well, you just said you weren't sure what you were doing,
Well,
so I'm wondering.
Because you could slide into the boards very easily. The ice is slick, and there's a particular way to drive it in a certain system they use. That was many years ago, Kevin, during my hockey days, so thank you for asking.
Got a lot of people wishing us Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays.
Right.
So are you going to get Dana a present this year?
We're not sure we're going to exchange gifts this year.
Really?
Yeah, every day is a gift as far as we're concerned. So,
Good way to look at it.
We might. And Sherry says, now don't you dare. I know we've agreed not to exchange gifts, but you better not.
Who said that?
Dana.
Oh.
If we agree, don't you dare.
Yeah, you got to be careful with that, right?
And
It's
then
like,
so
no.
one
And then
year
someone gives them something.
One year I actually did. And she got all mad. And I go, come on, I know you got me something. I didn't. Come on. I know you did. Where is it? Knowing full well she didn't.
Maybe that's why she doesn't like to exchange gifts with you.
Why.
To answer your question, John, something will happen.
I like the, we all have childhood stories of growing up during
Yeah.
Christmas, right? And I always like Brian's stories about how his dad would go out on Christmas Eve.
Yep.
And all the toys that were on the table, opened, whatever, he would just go up
Broken.
to the shop owner and say, you know what? I'll give you $50 for everything.
Well, no,
Yeah.
I think the way he put it was, and you're right, Christmas Eve,
Yeah.
downtown San Diego, big table full of just toys, random toys. He'd say, how much for the toys? The guy would say, well, which one? "No, the whole table." And like $50 back then, pretty good
Yeah.
price.
Yeah.
So he'd buy it. When I woke up in the morning, if you watched How the Grinch Stole Christmas and
Yeah.
Whoville
Yeah.
and all the trains and stuff, I'd wake up to that. But here's the beauty, too, is some of the toys were marked down because they were broken.
Right.
A chip here, a missing arm on something or whatever. Didn't matter to me as a kid. And that's
No.
why he got a great deal.
yeah.
Yeah, he was good. That was
You had a
fun
lot of
Christmas.
them. That's all you...
Yeah, that's all you cared about was
Right.
there was a lot of them.
There was a lot of things, exactly.
My wife was that way when we were first married. She didn't care what it was.
She just wanted multiple
She
gifts.
just wanted to open it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember the first Christmas we had, I think I wrapped up a comb.
Yeah,
a
just
hairbrush.
something to wrap.
Yeah.
Just something to
A comb?
yeah.
Yeah, a comb or a hairbrush, something like that. Just a lot of little things.
There is something to be said about opening.
We didn't have a lot of money back then, so
Well, no, you were just an up-and-coming couple.
yeah. I remember living in our apartment in Michigan State University, and I'd come home. I'd say, "What's for dinner tonight?" And she said, "Well, broccoli."
I thought you were going to say, John said, "What's for dinner tonight?" And Shannon said, "Reservations."
Yeah.
No,
Pizza.
no. She did work at a restaurant, though. One of the most famous restaurants in Lansing. It was called Jim's Tiffany Place. It was a
Jim's?
Greek restaurant, and it was famous for right near the Capitol. It was famous for all the Tiffany lamps that hung there.
What is a Tiffany lamp?
It's a
Like
high-
an actual
very
like that
high-end-
jewelry company?
Yeah.
Yeah, Tiffany's.
They
same
had
thing.
lamps?
Not only did they have lamps, if you had one right now, they're like $100,000.
Oh my
and up.
gosh.
Yeah, it's the Tiffany. There's pedestals too that are collectible, but the shade, if you saw it, you would probably recognize it.
Oh, okay. Tiffany lamp.
Go on eBay.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's nice that a lot of people say they're going to miss us. Carla's
We'll
really
miss them.
happy that she has Christmas to enjoy while we're gone for 2 weeks. Something
Yeah,
to
that's
keep
true.
her busy.
Uh,
And a lot of really nice.
A lot of nice things. Hey, by the way, if you are a subscriber to the newsletter, you want to encourage your friends or other people that are not, just go to our website, gardenamerica.com. I do believe, unless Daniel's changed things around, it's on the opening page, the home page. But you can find it easily. And click and subscribe. It is free. It is a lot of good information, articles. John does a great job each week. Pictures. You send John pictures, and under most circumstances, he will post them. And you'd prefer pictures of plants than anything horticulture, right?
Yeah, some of them can't be posted.
Right.
yeah.
And that's a different newsletter. If you pay $5 a month, then you get that newsletter.
Yeah, right. Oh man.
We have just over a minute to go, guys.
Oh man.
And,
Happy holidays.
We don't have another segment after this?
Well, you can stay if you want.
Just talk to
John,
myself.
Just John by
Yeah.
himself.
We'll leave a camera
yeah.
for you.
You know, I
go
have
ahead.
the longest drive of the three of us.
You know
Yeah.
what?
And what's going to happen when I can't find my way home?
I think about that quite often, about that drive. That's a heck of a drive.
Well, I guess we should take the opportunity then to thank our listeners for a wonderful year
Yeah.
of chit-chatting with us and sharing their gardening experiences as we shared ours with them, and just wish them the best for the coming year.
And feel free to recruit other people to watch the show. Join us on Biz Talk Radio,
Right.
Facebook Live. Spread the word.
Right.
We
and-
are going to be now. We know we're going to be back next year. There was touch and go through October,
Yeah.
but we are going to be back next year.
And
Yep.
Brian will post his address for anyone who's not doing anything that wants to join him on New Year's Eve, right?
Right, because we're going to put you to work in the garden. You're going to be pulling weeds. So with that in mind, thank you so much. As John mentioned, we really appreciate you. Of course, we would not be on the air if it wasn't for you. Thank you for the support. Hope you have a great Christmas, New Year's. We are back. Let's see.
Or Hanukkah. I'm not sure when Hanukkah
The
was.
4th,
this year.
January 4th, I think, is when our next show. Is that right, Tiger?
Yeah, I think you're right.
So we won't see you until next year.
Yeah, 2025.
Have a safe rest of your weekend. A great 2 weeks. Back on the 4th of January. And again, this is Garden America. Brian Main, John Bagnasco, Tiger Palafox. See you in 2025. Take care. Be safe.